To start getting the creative juices flowing, if you will, I want to direct everyone's attention to this whiteboard. These are going to be the three questions that we're looking at during this event. How could $50 million be used to meet people's needs? What things can we pressure the city to change that don't necessarily involve money? And the final one, what could we be doing without city funding or city approval to make this city better? So as these groups get up and talk about it, I want everyone to kind of have those three questions rolling in their mind. And I just wanted to let everyone know I'm really excited to be hearing from different groups who've been involved in struggles for a long time before this occupation started here at City Hall a month ago. And I just wanted to, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but I feel like Philadelphia has been a great example of how regular people, and that's to say the people who can at least afford to pay for this financial crisis, have been made to pay for the crisis that was caused by Wall Street. And through different decisions made by the city government and other institutions, the services that people rely on most have been taken away. I don't know if anybody here was involved in any of the protests in 2008 to keep the libraries open. Anybody remembers that? That was a really inspiring time when people came together to fight for something they needed. And sadly enough, the city government used the financial crisis that was happening about 3 years ago in the fall of 2008 to take away public and free resources that everyone needs. So in that spirit, we've invited different community groups down here to talk about those kind of struggles that maybe aren't as big, maybe don't catch as much media attention as the nationwide Occupy movement, but that are really tied into people's basic needs, and kind of asking the question, is power and money more important, or are people and their fundamental needs more important? So I'm really excited to have all of you down here to be thinking about that and talking about that together. And like I said, as we hear from these different community groups, be thinking about in your own neighborhood, in your own community, what some of these questions look like. So I'm going to pass it off to a couple other people to give a quick introduction, and then we're going to hear from these groups. So thank you everyone for being here.
Hello everybody. So kind of one of the things that started this conversation about getting community groups who've been struggling down here was the Dilworth Plaza renovation plan, which the funding is already set for, which is actually $55 million. And it got us thinking a lot about communities that have been struggling for years for access to resources, and how that funding never seems to materialize at City Hall. In fact, there have been massive cuts, and I think Scott mentioned that a bit. In 2008, when we had the budget crisis, there were sweeping cuts. The Nutter administration attempted to close 11 branch libraries. There is another aspect to it, which is kind of interesting, which people sometimes forget, which is another way that they raised revenue in the city was to enact regressive taxes. For instance, there was a 1% sales tax increase. And now, the nature of that kind of tax is that it affects a person who makes $200 a week as much as it affects someone who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So it disproportionately affects those who have less money. Okay? There were other regressive taxes that happened. There was the trash tax, which was a flat fee that there are a bunch of us who own homes, fortunate enough to own homes in the city, have to pay on our property tax bill, for the service of getting our trash removed. Well, I think that's garbage. When the budget crisis was going on, there was a coalition called the Coalition for Essential Services that made some recommendations to the city. One of the recommendations they made was about taxing the gross receipts of corporations that make over $500,000. What do you think the Nutter administration said to that?
No.
Right. They wouldn't even go there. Because in this city, when we have tax abatements, 10-year tax abatements for all new construction, which benefits mostly wealthy developers, which they won't touch either, they won't get rid of that. It's, taxing the rich, trying to find resources and wealth from the wealthy in the city is a no-go. And so the message that the Nutter administration sent was pretty clear. Neighborhoods can suffer, communities that need different resources can suffer, but we're not going to attempt to, even put the slightest bit of tax on the corporations or the wealthy. So I just wanted to frame it a bit that way, and have people think about that. There are many resources, and there is much wealth in the city, and it is in the hands of the very few. And we need to figure out ways to redistribute that wealth so that communities, neighborhoods, everybody can have what they need and what they desire in the city and make it a beautiful, beautiful city. And now I'm going to pass it off to Susie.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Susie. I remember first coming to City Hall when I was 16 to protest the first war on Iraq in 1990-91. In the next few years, I marched with ACT UP and participated in die-ins across Center City to demand justice for people living with AIDS. While I was living in New York City, the protest against the Republican National Convention in 2000 brought a lot of young activists who stayed and got involved in organizing against gentrification, prisons, police brutality, and more. In 2008, the movement to save the libraries ignited resistance to austerity in Philly, uniting people across neighborhoods. At times when there is not a big activist movement, organizations in Philly keep the struggle going. We're living in exciting times now, and Occupy Philly has opened up a great space of potential. Activist groups are often rooted in different oppressed communities and have different strategies for organizing collectively for liberation. And Occupy Philly is almost an entirely different type of thing, a place for people to come together as individuals to build direct democracy. One of the ideas behind today's event is to make space for the wisdom of community groups at Occupy Philly. As Angela Davis told us here last weekend, our unity must be a complex unity. That complexity gives us a great opportunity to learn from each other. Sorry I have to write everything down. I can't do public speaking without writing it down first. That's just how I am. Okay. Yeah, okay. So the complexity gives us a great opportunity to learn from each other. Our goal for today was to bring together groups that are fighting for our communities and rebuilding our communities. Because any money that the city, state, or federal government gives to banks and corporations is actually our money. And the abandoned buildings all over town are our buildings. Keep that in mind. We want to build solidarity and support each other's work, knowing that many activists are already so stretched thin with their work that it's hard to find time to come down to Occupy Philly. The Zapatistas first said that what we want is to build a world in which many worlds fit. We welcome everyone here today and hope this event can be part of imagining that new world. Thank you.